Happy Friday afternoon. Congratulations, you made it to the end of your work week. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and today we are talking about that rain out to the west that's going to cause a flooding and some snow issues, some winter weather issues in this area, and we'll talk about those alerts here in just a few minutes. But it's going to be a very, very wet weekend for those on the Pacific Northwest coast. Fake spring. Okay, we don't like to talk about fake things here in the weather world. We like to talk about facts, temperatures, what's going on. Why do we say fake spring? Well, it's kind of a tease with warmer weather coming our way this weekend, but then we go back to colder weather later in February, so we'll talk about that. And we have a low chance for storms today. Yes, we have a chance for high wind out in the Florida Panhandle, so we'll be talking about that as well. But before we get into your forecast here, head over to raising-hail-tour.com and purchase your Raising Hail tickets. We're so excited for this tour. It kicks off in less than a week. The first one that we have on the docket here, February 4th in Edmond, but we go all across the country, so you are definitely going to want to get your tickets for this. You're going to hear Derek's hail forecast for the 2025 severe weather season. He was teasing it the other day, and we'll be posting that tease to our social media today, this evening, so make sure that you are following us. But it was a great forecast. I'm very excited to go to this tour. And hey, I'll be there. So use my code, $10 off of your ticket. That makes it $15. RHTTAYLOR10 is the code that you can type in whenever you head to raising-hail-tour.com. With your ticket, you get a free lunch. This tour is only a few hours out of your day. I think it's about 3 to 4 hours in the afternoon. You've got lunch, you've got a t-shirt, and you even are entered into a contest to win a Yeti cooler. So there's a lot that you can get out of that $15. We can't wait to see you there. Taking a look at yesterday's storm reports. Okay, we finally have something on the radar, right? We were watching for those storms down in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi here. A line of storms. Here's where we're watching. We finally, as these storms progressed into the late night hours, did you see those warnings there? We finally had some activity on the radar, something interesting to look at. Now, what we saw out of this were a few wind alerts here. So we had some wind storm reports here, but it was mainly for non-severe wind gusts. So nothing over 58 miles an hour. Those non-severe winds actually did cause a little bit of damage. We heard reports of knocked over power lines and a few tree limbs down. So we've got some really moist soil in this area from all of that snow they got, right, just a week, 2 weeks ago. And now you're getting high wind to come through here with all of that rain. So you're probably getting some really loose items out there that are easy to fall over. So that's what we're seeing. That's what we think happened here. Non-severe wind gusts, however, under 58 miles an hour. Other than that, we had that range stretching up the East Coast and then, of course, over to the Midwest, turning into snow off to the Northeast. And then we're focusing our attention back to the Pacific Northwest, where we do have another chance for snow and rain as we head into the weekend. It's everyone's favorite word here, atmospheric river. And if you don't remember what that means, I'll explain it here in just a few minutes. But taking you back out to all of that rain, we saw some really good rainfall totals anywhere from the eastern side of Louisiana up to the western side of Mississippi and even into southern Kentucky. Some really good rainfall totals with this as well. 3, 4, 5 inches in some places here. Other than that, just a few inches across Arkansas and into Tennessee. Now, you've probably heard it on social media. We've all been talking about the warmer weather today, Saturday, Sunday looks really nice. Temperatures are above average for most of the U.S. A lot of us get to partake in this nice warmer weather. Now, it's not warm. It's warmer than average. So we're talking about maybe 10, 15 degrees above where we normally see temperatures this time of the year. That's why we're saying it feels like spring out there. And speaking of spring, we also have a chance for storms, some spring-like storms down in the Florida Panhandle coming off of this front here. It's a low risk, similar to yesterday, and we're going to see some high wind from this. So we'll be watching for that as well. Here's your atmospheric river. What we see here is we see a rush of air off of the Pacific, and with that air brings in a lot of moisture. And we see the atmosphere very fluid-like. Now, you see air, but as meteorologists, we see what could look like a river. And if you see it on satellite, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's got a lot of moisture with it, and as it comes on land, it's bringing a lot of rain, and then in the upper elevations, snow as well. So that's what we're seeing through this weekend, a very wet weekend ahead out to the west. However, out to the east, most of this will clear off over the next 24 hours, and you're left with a mostly dry weekend ahead. Temperatures right now here in Oklahoma are in the 50s, very similar across a good portion of the U.S. We still have temperatures in the 50s, so that's really nice, a lot better than what we felt just a few days ago whenever those temperatures weren't even getting above freezing for some of us about a week ago. Taking a look at those that do have cold temperatures and do have winter weather, winter storm warning highlighted here in pink for the upper elevations. That goes anywhere from Oregon all the way down to northern California. We do have a flood watch for those of us that are getting just too much rain too fast. We need the rain in this area, but too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. And so we do have a flood watch in effect for San Francisco. And then we have other winter weather alerts for the upper elevations. You could see up to several inches of snow in this area, and then some high wind speeds up to 50 miles an hour. So it doesn't matter how much snow you get, if that snow is blowing in front of you, it drastically reduces your visibility, making it dangerous to be on the roadways. We are still watching for some river flooding, so there's a flood warning highlighted here in green, and what you can't see is these are very, very specific areas across the Virginias that are still watching for some overflow of water that just came in too quickly, and it's kind of moved some things around, so we're watching for landslides and debris flow with this as well. That goes until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then a little bit of snow up into New York as well. There's your alerts for today, so let's get into your forecast here. Your future radar shows all of that rain moving out to the east today. There's your severe weather risk highlighted here in green. It mainly goes across the Florida Panhandle, but it just barely scrapes the southern side of Alabama and Georgia here. This will continue to track off to the east, becoming less severe as we get into the late evening hours. So shortly after dinner time, you're going to see that severe risk go down as the sun goes down. And then, as I mentioned, all of that rain moving off to the east, snow going with it as well, and we're mostly dry after that. Mostly dry for most of the U.S. except for the Pacific Northwest that will continue to see all of that rain and snow over the next 24 to 48 hours here. So that flood risk that we have out in California will most likely not go away anytime soon. Now, we always talk about hail here at Hail Trace. Doesn't matter what type of storm, is there going to be hail with it? That's the question we're always asking, right? So I have your hail model for today, but it looks weak. There's not a lot of colors on it. We have some very, very, very light white on here, which means if we see any sort of hail at all, it'll be very, very small. But I think it's even a low risk to see small hail today. The bigger risk with this will be the high wind, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Other than that, we're seeing snow. There's that snow coming in from the atmospheric river. It's trying, by Sunday, it tries to come into the plains. So Nebraska, North and South Dakota, may get a little bit of snow from this as well. Not a ton, not too much, especially this far out to be talking about too much at this point. Here's a look at Saturday. You can see some of those snow bands try to set up across here, but we're right along the freezing line. So will this be rain or will it be snow? It really depends on the temperature at that time. We're right along the freezing line here. But things are changing. Things are changing across the U.S. Let me show you how. We have the jet stream. Here's your jet stream. Those streaks of high wind in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and they start to create some wavy patterns here, right? Do you see that? We go up with a ridge of high pressure, and then we go down with that low pressure. But it changes over the next few days, and it becomes a lot more zonal, a lot more flat, parallel to our state lines, right? Parallel to where my arm is right now. And what we see is that becomes stagnant weather. I was actually talking to a meteorologist friend this morning, and he said zonal flow is boring weather, and that's exactly right. Up to the north, we stay cold. Down to the south, we stay warm. It's like the jet stream kind of just splits us in half, and that's where we stay, where not a lot goes on when we're in this zonal flow. And that's where we stay over the next few days. Now, this is really nice if you need to get outside, knock on doors, because we're not going to see a lot of changes in the weather until we get this wavy pattern back into our models here. It's going to take a little bit. So do your door knocking. Go fix those roofs now while you have good weather. We'll take you back down to the south now, take you back to that forecast for today. Your wind forecast is the biggest risk today. It's a low risk, again isolated here on the board for Panama City and Tallahassee. I think if we see any strong wind gusts, it'll be right around 58 miles an hour. So 58 to maybe 65, maybe if you're lucky you'll get 65 out of this. But again, it's a low to medium risk. Right on the edge. It's a very, very low medium risk. The biggest risk here is going to be those high winds. You could see a little bit of flooding, but an extremely low chance for a tornado or any hail. So what are we watching for here? You get lots of different types of severe thunderstorm warnings throughout the spring. We are watching for that base thunderstorm warning, so 58 miles an hour or higher for your wind speeds, most likely not warned for hail at all. Other times of the year with other storm systems, you could get some of those more impressive thunderstorm warnings, considerable, destructive. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about this one right here for 58 miles an hour for your wind speed. Other than that, we're watching for snow out to the west and up to the north. The northwest also getting some snow. It's staying pretty quiet down to the south. We've got rain trying to move in by the early to mid portion of next week. So this is Tuesday into Wednesday, but right now it's also looking weak. So with these warmer temperatures as we head into the weekend, we'll talk about temperatures here in just a few minutes, you're going to want to get outside. And what a better time to do it than with our sunset being later and later and later during the day. So we have 5:18 for your sunset in Denver, Colorado this evening, 5:27 for next week, 5:35, and we're almost to 5:45 as we get into the middle to late portion of February. Heading down to Oklahoma City and Dallas now. Today is the last day of a before 6 o'clock sunset for really until we get to daylight savings time. Isn't that awesome? After 6 o'clock sunset, from here on out, all the way through the summer, we just see longer and longer days. So in Dallas tonight, 5:59, but tomorrow, you're after 6 o'clock. By February 7th, it's 6:05. 6:12, you're gaining about 6 minutes of daylight every single evening, and that's awesome. It's great to see that we are inching closer to our spring season. Let's talk temperatures now. I told you we'd finally get to those temperatures. Waking up tomorrow morning, we're in the 40s here in Oklahoma City. Chilly enough to need your jacket. Maybe a coat as you head farther up to the north with temperatures below freezing in the 20s. But down to the south, you can wake up, just a sweatshirt is all that you're going to need with temperatures in the 60s. We warm up to the 50s and 60s for a good portion of the U.S. over the weekend. Look at Sunday. Sunday here in Oklahoma City gets us up to the low 70s. 71 in Dallas, 74 in Corpus Christi. Now, if you watch our forecast, you know I like to play a game, who's the coldest and who's the warmest? Okay, I see 78 down in Miami, warmest down in Florida winds, and where are we at for the coldest? 19 up in Portland. So pretty typical for this time of the year. But again, you can see that change, cold up to the north, warm down to the south. That's where we stay as we head all the way through the weekend into early next week. We're not going to see a ton of changes here. Now let's head into February. February 1st tomorrow, so let's head into the later portion of next week into next weekend. We're looking at temperatures staying above average down to the south and east and below average out to the north and west. We're also, and this has been a common trend for February here, Our long-term models want to show a better chance for some sort of precipitation, whether that be rain or snow, we'll have to see, but it does look pretty promising to keep this wet weather pattern going here. And that's what we've got for you today. Thanks for joining us. Of course, our Mets are going to be watching those storms today down in Florida, so we'll be mapping that as well. If we have any of those severe wind gusts, we'll be mapping it. If you have a question about our hail maps or you want to get a subscription before the spring gets started, get it now so you're prepared. 855-334-4245 is the phone number to call, or head over to our website, hailtrace.com. You can also email us if you're on your phone at info@hailtrace.com. And follow us on all of our social media. As I mentioned earlier, we're posting Derek's tease for the 2025 hail forecast this afternoon, so make sure that you're following us and you get to see those alerts, those updates. And if you have not registered for the Raising Hail Tour yet, head over to raising-hail-tour.com. You're running out of time. We are just about ready for that tour to begin. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. We'll see you back here, same time, same place on Monday.